In 2013, Dontnod Entertainment released their first video game, Remember Me. I remember first reading about it in Game Informer and thinking it looked so cool. I just wanted it so bad that I just watched the available gameplay over and over again. And, when I finally had my very limited middle schooler money, I spent it on Remember Me instead of my other option, The Last of Us. Yeah, okay, I know now that was not one of my better decisions. I mean, I loved Remember Me, but this game flat out cannot compete with The Last of Us. And this is the part where I make the obvious joke about how Remember Me ironically wasn't remembered. Regardless of my feelings on this game, or the potential it held for a sequel, Dontnod decided to go back to the drawing board for their next game and create something drastically different. Enter Life is Strange, a pick-your-path story-driven game in the vein of Telltale's outings, with the main difference here being that, well, this game's fueled by teen angst.
Fuck cameras.
I've heard countless criticisms of Life is Strange over time, and yeah, it's far from a perfect game, but it's clearly resonated so well with so many people. So why is that? I mean, over time, Life is Strange's fanbase has become one of the most die-hard fanbases I've ever seen. And I should know, I'm part of it. Yeah, full disclosure, this is a hella biased video. So let me tell you a bit about Life is Strange and why it resonated so much with me. Oh boy, that takes me back. I don't want to get too hung up here. If I hyperfixated on every piece of music in this game, we'd be here all day. But I gotta say, hats off to Dontnod and composer Jonathan Morali for this title screen. This song, called Golden Hour, perfectly captures the beauty of life right along with the unease. It's hopeful yet melancholic, painting a picture of the carefree yet anxious teenage years. Every time I play this game, without fail, I sit on this title screen for far longer than I intend, and I really can't commend it enough. It sets the tone perfectly. Life is Strange's story focuses on Max Caulfield, a girl returning to her hometown, Arcadia Bay, for her senior year of high school after moving away when she was a kid. Upon returning, she feels like she doesn't really fit in because she's not like the other girls, but she's still determined to do her best anyways. One day, after witnessing her old best friend Chloe get murdered, she thrusts her hand forward in anguish, inadvertently rewinding time to shortly before Chloe was killed. This begins the 5-episode story of Max learning how to use her time-reversing powers for good, while simultaneously rekindling her friendship with Chloe, attempting to find Chloe's missing best friend Rachel, and trying to save the entire town from an impending hurricane that she keeps having visions of. And if you want to know what happens from there, I highly recommend you get the game and play through it yourself. And if you're still not convinced to do so, well, there's still the rest of this video to convince you. While the core plot is great, Life is Strange is much more of a character-focused, atmospheric game. And because of that, I would guess that most fans are not fans because the plot itself is phenomenal, but rather because everything surrounding it is. Gameplay is most quickly explained by comparing it to other pick-your-path narrative games, such as Detroit Become Human or The Walking Dead. You occasionally solve some minor puzzles, but the majority of the game is exploring Arcadia Bay and chatting with the locals, building your relationships and trying to progress the main plot. You'll also have a handful of major choices throughout each episode that each can have serious ramifications. There's also a billion minor choices that literally don't matter, or in the case of the houseplant, aren't actually a choice. Everyone kills Lisa. Killing Lisa is inevitable. Lisa must die. One of the coolest things about Life is Strange is the time rewinding mechanic. This is used in several puzzles, but can also be used in dialogue with characters. Maybe you need a certain piece of info to get a character to like you, so you talk to them to get them to blatantly tell it to you, and then you rewind time and act like you knew it all along. You can even use it after almost all of the game's major choices, allowing you to see the immediate outcome of your decision. It's not usually enough to know all of the ramifications of your choice, but it gives enough information to make it feel like more than just a gimmick. It's been talked about to death, but I really can't stress how innovative this mechanic is. Max Caulfield being able to rewind time as a core plot point is genius because it weaves perfectly with the pick-your-path narrative adventure, creating one of the best depictions I've ever seen of ludonarrative harmony. In other words, Life is Strange has a phenomenal synergy between the gameplay and the story. As I said though, the gameplay plays second fiddle to the characters. Each episode expertly weaves the main plot with different side characters to create satisfying narrative payoffs. Dontnod really knew how to make Arcadia Bay feel alive. It doesn't feel like anyone is truly unimportant. Prominent side characters like Kate or David don't have the biggest of focuses, and yet they collide with the main plot in very interesting ways that feel natural and important. Other side characters like Alyssa or Juliet hardly matter to the main plot, but they contribute so strongly to making the entire world feel alive. Every time you help Alyssa not get hit with the ball feels like a genuine good deed that you did just because you wanted to do it. These interactions are what make the game so intimate, capturing the friendship, the drama, and the angst that came with being a teenager. Side note, I hear people say that the writing of these games is cringy and unrealistic, but like, in my experience, it literally couldn't be more accurate. Maybe it's the crowd I hung around, or still hang around, but I played this game in the middle of high school, and me and my friends unironically use the cringy teen slang that's in this game all the time. I don't know what to tell you, man. Hell is here to stay. Don't like it? Fight me. The most popular characters, though, without a doubt, are Max and Chloe, and I can fully see why. At the start of the game, Max and Chloe haven't seen each other in years, and there's some resentment between them because of that. Max has been an awful friend, and she recognizes that alongside the player. You meet Chloe and see the shitty situation that she's in, and you want to try to rekindle this friendship in whatever way you can. It's not always easy, but throughout the course of the game, you slowly grow closer to her. You grow more trusting, more depending, and depending on how you take things, more closer. Yes, as I mentioned in my Gazing Games video, Max and Chloe can be together romantically, and I think it's fair to say that this is where a large part of the fanbase comes from. And I mean that in the best possible way. I don't think romance was the writer's #1 priority with Life is Strange's plot, but I think the relationship between Max and Chloe was what initially grabbed so many players, especially so many LGBT players. And let me just say that it's phenomenal seeing so much fan art of the two in the Life is Strange communities, spreading love and acceptance wherever they go. Max and Chloe's relationship doesn't get too far in the game before it's over, but it's a good start that feels genuinely heartwarming and I think spoke to a lot of players, myself included. Now the story is good and the characters are great, but before we talk about one of the best aspects of Life is Strange, let's talk about the worst. The ending of Life is Strange is not good. And this is something I've thought ever since I first played it. I mean, when I first beat episode 5, I was upset. Because it sucks. It hurts so much to say, but I really hate the endings to this game. If you've played, I gotta talk about it. They're just so bad, in my opinion. I mean, don't worry. If you haven't played, go to this timestamp. You can skip all the ending discussion and the spoilers, but if you have, I'm gonna rant about it a little bit. That cool? Hella. So it's the end of the game. You've figured out who the bad guy is, you've made amends with your school bully, yada yada, whatever.
I was eating those bees! Ugh!
But what about the storm? You know, the unexplained hurricane that's gonna wipe out the entire town? Do you want to know what caused that? Oh, well, it was using your powers. At all. I don't think this would be so bad if they explained how Max using her powers created the storm. I mean, it's kind of explained or implied that it's the butterfly effect, but I have 2 huge issues with this. Issue 1. While the butterfly effect is theoretically true, are you really going to tell me that anything Max did seriously created this storm? I mean, if that's the case, please, I beg of you, show me how. I refuse to believe that rewinding time to actually just, be popular in school is going to cause the deaths of my family. As it stands, the butterfly effect just feels like a cop-out, which means it's gotta be supernatural somehow, right? Issue 2. Okay, so now you're telling me that the universe granted Max these powers, but also planned on punishing her if she ever used them? You've played the entire game, and now it turns out, oh, whoops, you know that thing that you've been doing this whole time to help people? Yeah? Well, fuck you. You shouldn't have used it ever, you idiot. Alyssa needs to get hit with those balls. The universe demands it. This is just stupid. I mean, Max uses her powers almost exclusively for good, so why should she be cosmically punished like this? I mean, yeah, there's a solid moral debate to be had, like, should you rewind time and make everything perfect, or let things play out as they originally happened? The game kinda goes into that with episode 4, but honestly, not enough, and it just makes the storm feel unjust and unfair, and, again, like a cop-out. But all of that isn't even why I hate the ending. No, it's just part of a bigger problem. I mean, I could accept this unexplained storm bullshit fine if it didn't make both endings suck. They suck so hard. In one ending, Max undoes all of her time traveling to save everyone. starting by letting Chloe die at the beginning of the game. This subsequently undoes literally everything you've done throughout the course of the whole game. This is clearly the ending that they intended for people to get because it results in a much longer, much more emotional cutscene. However, even when you disregard how nobody wanted Chloe to die, this still sucks because it literally undoes everything. The entire game, more or less for nothing. All of those relationships you've made, the growth you've seen in others, it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking exist anymore. Fuck you. Now everything plays out in some other way that you don't actually get to see. What was the point of all of it? I don't know. I would say it's the friendships we made along the way, but none of those friendships exist anymore. I mean, Max has all those memories, but what's she supposed to do with them? Be depressed? In the other ending, you allow the entire city to be destroyed, sacrificing Arcadia Bay for your bay. This leaves everything destroyed and everyone dead, and there's a tiny, pitiful cutscene of Max and Chloe driving through the wreckage before the game abruptly ends. No confirmation of who died or who survived, no discussion of the events or what to do next, and guess what? Everything you just did? It doesn't fucking matter, but this time it's because everyone's dead. What the fuck? Dontnod clearly just didn't know how to make your choices matter in the ending, so they just didn't. And that's why I hate the endings of this game. Life is Strange has such good characters and atmosphere and a good murder mystery plot, and you figure it all out, and it all just doesn't matter at all. So why does everyone still love this game despite the ending sucking that much? Well, as I already said before, everything surrounding the plot is still phenomenal. And also, there's one more element that's ridiculously important that I haven't even mentioned yet. Life is Strange has one of the best soundtracks ever. I have the soundtrack CD from the limited edition, and this thing is a treasure to me. Not only is the music composed for the game beautiful, but it has one of the best implementations of licensed music that I've ever seen. Throughout the game, it'll be on in the radio or play at certain emotional story beats. I can't play any of it for you all here because of copyright, but so many of them have become playlist mainstays for me. Crosses by Jose Gonzalez is my personal favorite, but Mount Washington by Local Natives and Santa Monica Dream by Angus and Julian Stone are also way up there. Really, you can't go wrong with any of it here. Lua, Piano Fire, To All of You, Get Well Soon, they all come together to make the perfect tone and vibe for Life is Strange. It's cozy, but a little haunting. You're in a suffocating town and everyone needs to get out, and yet there's something that makes you want to stay. Putting on the soundtrack nowadays, it always makes me feel hopeful that, even if my current life situation is shitty, I'll make it out just fine. A theme that I think the game tries to convey right from the get-go with the title screen music. I can't always put a soundtrack on and feel the exact feelings I felt when first playing the game, but with Life is Strange, any of these songs can come up and I'm immediately rushed back to the characters and my feelings for them. To me, the soundtrack is easily one of the biggest reasons Life is Strange has had the staying power that it's had. And I think staying power is the perfect way to sum up the first Life is Strange. There's been numerous sequels since, with brand new casts, and yet the first game is still the standout entry to so many. I think that's because there's really just been nothing else like it. Life is Strange has a flawed plot because of the ending, yes, but the attachment I had to the world and all the characters in it was still there the whole way through. The relationship between Max and Chloe and all of the interactions with the other characters too, they all made my time in Arcadia Bay memorable. The soundtrack has stuck with me for damn near a decade, and the art design and style is super iconic, even if the lip sync is non-existent. No other game has made me feel cozy in the same way that Life is Strange has. Despite how cringe a lot of people say the writing is, or how wonky the animations definitely sometimes are, I still truly felt like I was transported to Arcadia Bay, and I will forever remember and cherish that trip. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a funeral to attend to. Lisa, why? Thank you so much for watching the whole video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe because I've got more Life is Strange coming on the way. This video was a bit calmer and ended up a lot longer than I thought it would be, so I'd love to hear feedback in the comments, but thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next vid. Issue 2!